Hi guys, welcome back to Codemaster Coach, your medical coding tutor. Today I am doing something that I've been asked to do, so I want to take this opportunity during Vlogmas to give you a quick video on my tips to the CPC exam. Again, these are just my tips, and these are going to be a little brief tips, but things you might need to consider when preparing for the CPC exam. Now again, these tips are for those that have already completed an ICD-10-CM course, a CPT course, and a medical terminology class, and are familiar and prepared now to go and sit for the exam. So my first tip is to prepare for your marathon. That's exactly how I felt when I was preparing for my exam. I sat down, I put myself on a strict 12-week schedule. I set up every Saturday morning from 9 to 12 to devote solely to preparing for my exam. And the key to the CPC exam is practice. Practice, practice, and practice. The AAPC website has 3 quizzes on their website that you can purchase for practice. I purchased those exams, and that helped me with questions to study for the exam with, because they were set up just like the exam. And then as you're practicing, time yourself. But the key here is start with like 10 questions, okay? Start with 10 questions and keep increasing the number of questions at each weekly setting. Because what you have to do is you have to build your stamina up to be able to sit there and code without getting exhausted. And it's just like a marathon. With coding, you have to build yourself up. You're not going to just be able to jump in and do 150 questions. You'll be tired. You're going to have to work to build yourself up, build your stamina up to be able to sit for that period of time and answer those questions. So that's why I say prepare for your marathon. Tip 2, go to the AAPC website. Spend a lot of time on there because, one, the application to apply for the test is on that website at www.aapc.com. It tells you what books are allowed. Now, like I said, we already know it's ICD-10-CM, CPT, and medical terminology. But you can't walk into that exam with any ICD-10-CM and any CPT. If you go to that website, based on your date that you're scheduled to take your exam, they'll tell you what year your ICD-10 and CPT book have to be. And they are even particular about which ICD-10 and which CPT book publisher you're allowed to use during the exam. So make sure you go onto that website, familiarize yourself with it. And it will also tell you where the testing sites closest to you for you to go to take your exam. So again, spend some time on that AAPC website. My third tip is to know that there are 3 key areas on that exam. As I said before, ICD-10-CM, CPT, and medical terminology. So make sure you have completed an ICD-10-CM class, a CPT class, and that you've taken a medical terminology class. Know your guidelines. You've got to know them. Number 4, use resources. One thing that I did that stays with me, when I took my exam, I went to, as I was doing the medical terminology section, there were some terms that I wasn't familiar with. I used my ICD-10-CM code book to look up the medical term to figure out what it was. And it's a multiple choice. The CPC exam is a multiple choice question test. So based on the choices that I was given, by looking at the term up in my ICD-10-CM book, I was able to figure out what the condition was so that then I can determine what it was as far as which one was the correct answer. So use your resources that you have at hand as you're taking your test. Number 5, start the test at your strongest area first. All right, thinking your test is ICD-10-CM, CPT, and medical terminology. I knew my strength was medical terminology. I want to go ahead and answer all those questions first. So when you get your exam, look through it real quick. Take a second. Go through the exam. See how it's split up. Because you'll find that exam is split up based on your CPT book. I promise you, each section in the CPT book is on that CPC exam. It goes through E&M, anesthesia, surgery and lab, etc. And then the back was a medical terminology section that had like 25 or 30 questions on medical terms. So I wanted to get that section done first because I knew it was my strongest point. But make sure you know each one of these sections in the CPT book, okay? Know the guidelines. At the beginning of each one of these sections, there's a page or two of guidelines for each section. Like in the anesthesia, there are P codes to assign, the letter P, to assign to the anesthesia code. I can remember one of those questions being on the exam, but if you look at anesthesia codes in the CPT book, there's not a P code, but that guideline at the beginning of the anesthesia section describes the P codes and when to use the additional P code with the anesthesia code. Same thing with path and lab. In the guidelines at the beginning of path and lab, it talked about the difference between an individual code and a panel code. And that helped me know when to assign a panel for path and lab versus the individual code. So make sure you know those guidelines at the beginning of each of the sections in your CPT book. And an extra pointer I want to give you is don't leave any question unanswered. If you see time is running out, get your rhythm. Mine was, I had already had a game plan. If time was running out and I had 2 minutes left and I had questions left that were unanswered, I went down and answered C on all of my unanswered questions. I'd rather get it wrong for a guess than a guaranteed wrong, because I might be right. I don't know on a question that I hadn't gotten to. But rather than leaving it blank where I'm guaranteed to get it wrong, okay? And just I just let you know, I took the exam on a Saturday morning, and I had gotten the discount by joining AAPC. It was $100 off the exam. Took the exam that Saturday morning. By that Friday morning at 11 a.m., I was able to go to my AAPC website under my membership, and there were my test results. I passed the first time. So guys, you can do it. It's not an easy exam, but if you study for your marathon, you can win. All right, guys, those are my tips. I hope they help someone. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.